Put it. Agreed. Hit. Alright, folks, you guys are more than welcome to come right over here and up against the wall right over here. Alright, folks, come on down. We're going to be standing out in the sun for a little bit. Breathe in. What if, huh?
On behalf of the President of the United States Air Force, and a grateful nation, please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your honorable and faithful service.
Thank you to all of you for being here. Many of you have served with Lieutenant Colonel Richard Lightfoot. Many of you are friends, long, lifetime friends, family as well. My deepest condolences go out to you, Patricia, family, Charles. My name is Brian Childs, for those of you who don't know me. I'm one of the pastors at Link Bible Church, where Richard and Patricia and Charles have attended for a number of years. Richard and I shared a common bond in military service. I was a captain in the Army before becoming pastor. So we would get together and remember some of the stories from when I was in service and his years in service, as well as just talking about life and faith. And I really appreciated those times. And I miss Richard. Lieutenant Colonel Lightfoot was a military man through and through. 28 years active duty Air Force, if I counted right, as well as after that, more than 20 years in the Oregon State Defense Force, where he was promoted to colonel during his time there. This is a military funeral, and we celebrate, we remember his years of service to this country. But there was more to the man than just a military man. He was a family man. He loved his wife, his family. He spoke about you guys often. And just the last few weeks of his life, the preparation, the amount of energy that went into just making sure you guys were okay. You should be very confirmed in his love for you, very confirmed that he cared deeply for you guys. He was also a man of faith, and more than just a religious man. He went to church most of his life, called himself a Christian most of his life. He did things like teaching Sunday school for more than 20 years, taking Bibles with him wherever he went around the world to just share the gospel, the good news with people who may not have heard it. But he wasn't just a man who did the right things. He had a vibrant and true relationship with Jesus Christ. And I got to meet with him about 2 weeks ago, and with Patricia as well, and our senior pastor, to talk with him about this day. And it is a little surreal to talk with someone about what you're going to do after they pass on. But he was very clear. There were two things that were very striking about that meeting. One was just the joy and the peace that he just exuded in that time. Though he was at the end of his life and he knew it, he was in pain, he was in distress, trying to care for his family. There was a joy and a peace that I believe came straight from the Lord, straight from his relationship with his Heavenly Father. So that was one thing that struck me. But the second thing was, there was no fear of death. He wasn't afraid of what was coming next. He had every confidence that he would be in heaven with the Lord. But what he was concerned about was you. What he was concerned about was those who would be left behind when he left. And he has a favorite verse that we're going to look at in a minute from the Bible, 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 7 to 8. But I think in this verse we get a very clear message from Richard for each of us here. And so I just want to look at that for a few minutes. Just to give you a little context before I read it, though, I just want to explain for those of you who may not be familiar. This was a letter written by a man named Paul a couple thousand years ago. And his purpose was to share the good news about Jesus with everyone. He traveled around the world, the Roman Empire at the time, building churches, establishing churches, telling people about Christ, the forgiveness of sins that he offers. And this letter he wrote at the end of his life to one of the people he was closest to, a man named Timothy. At the end of his life, his last words, his words of encouragement to someone who he was afraid he wouldn't get to see again, his last thoughts. And so I think it's so appropriate that Richard chose this book and this verse to share with us today. So let's look at it. It's a short passage. Let me just read it for you, and I just want to share a few quick things from it. So 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 7 and 8, it says, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Henceforth there is laid up for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. And not only to me, but also to all who have loved his appearing. And I think, first of all, we can appreciate a military man understanding fighting the good fight.